Okay, just to finish up the last couple questions here quickly. Number 7 is, how did this rejection affect the League of Nations? In other words, how did the U.S. rejection of the Peace Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations affect it? Well, without U.S. support, the League of Nations was really unable to take action on various complaints of nations around the world. The League of Nations wasn't nearly as effective as it could have been if the United States had been part of it. But the League of Nations had lots of reasons for failure. It wasn't just the United States that weren't part of it. It was also Russia, and Germany wasn't part of it either in the beginning as part of their punishment. And so there were lots of reasons that the League of Nations fell apart, but one of the main ones is that it doesn't have U.S. support. And this is a famous political cartoon from back then that illustrates this, right? You have a bridge, and it's missing its keystone, the very middle, the supporting part that represents the United States, and you have the other countries on there, but it doesn't look very sturdy. And there you have Uncle Sam kind of having a smoke and taking a nap and not really caring about the stability of that bridge that represents the League of Nations. And that's exactly what happened. The U.S. never joined, and so it wasn't as strong of an agent of peace as it could have been. Number 8, last question. Why did many countries feel bitter and cheated as a result of the treaty? Well, first of all, the war guilt clause really left a legacy of hatred among the Germans. It created kind of this atmosphere where Germany felt as though they had been bullied, they had been pushed, they hadn't really lost the war. The Allies never even got into German territory. They had just stopped because they thought they couldn't win anymore. And for them to be punished this much and to have to admit and say that the war was just their fault and no one else's, that created a lot of anger. And that created a lot of tension in Germany, so much so that a few years later, you have, as illustrated in this picture, the Nazi Party can kind of capitalize on that hatred and anger based on the Treaty of Versailles. That's one of the reasons that helped them get to power. Another group that didn't feel very good or felt cheated were African and Asian nations. They were often angry because they wanted independence and it was ignored. A lot of places were put under mandates. Former Ottoman areas that were under Ottoman control, or former German colonies, they're made mandates. So France and Britain kind of still ruled over them, but it was supposed to be different than regular imperialism. But here you have the Africans and Asians saying, "What about self-determination? Why can't we be our own country when we want to be our own country?" And you have the European powers kind of condescendingly saying, "You're not ready for that yet." And finally, you have Japanese and Italians. They gained less land than they wanted. They both fought on the side of the Allies. They felt like they should be entitled to a lot more land than they gained. And so they were upset. So even some of the Allies didn't really like it. And that's why we said created bitterness. Some countries felt cheated. It was a hotly contested compromise. And it turned out that a lot of people walked away not happy at all with what had happened. And this kind of lays the groundwork for the future for World War II in quite a few ways. Here's a list of sources of where I got all the pictures from. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys in class soon.